I'm going to just kind of go back and forth with Brendan and Evan about daily habits that will help you wake up every day, stay present to this future you are designing, stay present to the growth that you're committed to, and take the action or actions that will help you inch in the direction of this future you're designing. You are not going to be on day one of this new chapter with this extraordinary map and have it happen tomorrow. And so understand, and I think it's so important, everybody, again, time traveling. And I loved what Brendan said about don't come back to the present moment alone, bring your future self with you. And this is anchored, by the way, in a huge body of research that, again, I write about extensively in the High Five Habit called behavioral activation therapy. Behavioral activation therapy is just as effective as cognitive behavioral therapy. And behavioral activation therapy, said very plainly, is act like the person you want to become. And you have just designed a map to your future. You have just envisioned and journaled about the characteristics of your future self. You have allowed yourself to feel what it is like to be that person. Now bring that future self back to the present moment and act like the future self you want to become. This is very different than faking it till you make it, because fake it till you make it means you don't know what you're doing. When you bring your future self back to the present moment and you intentionally and consciously act like that person, you're not faking anything. You're just taking new actions that align with the direction that you want to be headed in. And based on all the research around what they call BAT, behavioral activation therapy, acting like the person you want to become is the fastest way to become that person, because not only are you taking the actions that get you toward what you want, but your brain sees you acting differently. So it starts to relate to you differently. This is super powerful stuff here. And so, I'm going to give you 5 habits that I practice on almost a daily basis. I'd say these are definitely things I do every single day. I mean, are there emergencies in life? Absolutely. Are there days where I have a hard time shaking off what's going on and grabbing on and flipping into a high five attitude? Yes. But the 5 daily habits that I have, and then, we'll go to Brendan, and I'd love for Evan to weigh in. And these are things that help me stay on course. These are things that help me move toward what I want. These are things that help me act like my highest and best self, no matter what's going on. These are the daily habits that have made a profound difference in my life. And so the first habit that I use at least once a day is the 5-second rule. And you all know it. You count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the counting backwards acts like a giant push to help you push through resignation, self-doubt, insecurity, whatever it is that the momentary block or hesitation is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 always gets the job done for me. And I use it once every day because, true story, I know many of you have heard me say this, but I invented the 5-second rule 13 years ago to get out of bed during one of the worst moments of my life. 13 years later, I still use it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to get out of bed. And I think, Evan, you were talking about this. I think I saw this in a training that you did or one of your videos, or maybe we talked about this on our Instagram Live. There's all this research about the fact that if you repeat a behavior for a certain number of days, that it'll become a habit. That may be true, but I believe that if you don't like doing it, it may never become something that's automatic. And that's why I love the 5-second rule. 13 years later, everybody, I still hate to get out of bed. I know intellectually lying in bed is the worst place for me to be. I know intellectually laying there and thinking about the day, worst place to be. I know intellectually I should get out of bed. I know the research about the snooze alarm and not hitting it, but I still don't like to. And so I still, 13 years later, everybody feel resistance every morning when the alarm rings. So every day I use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to get out of bed. And oftentimes I use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to exercise. I also use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to put my phone down and put it in a basket in our kitchen so that I don't live in what psychologists call the gray zone, which is where your phone is on you all the time and you're, in your life, never able to disconnect. So one daily habit, I'm going to do all 5 of mine quickly, and then I'm going to kind of pass it back to Brendan and see also what Evan has to say about it. 5-second rule. Push me through stuff, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in the periods of my life or the days that I don't want to drink. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm pouring myself a mocktail instead of pouring a gin and tonic or grabbing a glass of wine. The second thing that I do forever, every day, ever since discovering it, is I use 2 of the tools every single day from the High Five habit. And these have had the single greatest impact on my entire life. Profound. Completely changed how I relate to myself. I obviously am a very positive, outgoing, energized, authentic, real kind of person, but I have forever been extraordinarily harsh and critical and demeaning and relentless in my own head, just beating the hell out of myself. And it wasn't until I discovered the High Five habit that I reprogrammed my whole brain and broke the habits of self-hatred and self-rejection and self-criticism. And so the first habit, obviously, is high-fiving myself in the mirror. I never leave a bathroom. And I never start my day without being with the woman in the mirror and giving her a high five. That's number 1. And number 2, the high five to the heart, which is pressing on your vagus nerve right here. I write about this in all the science in chapter 13. High-fiving your heart is a way to flip your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight and anxious nervous system, off, and flip on my parasympathetic nervous system, which is your resting, cool, calm nervous system. And you need to know how to do this, because you cannot leverage the cognitive functioning of your prefrontal cortex and your conscious thinking if your nervous system is on edge. So if you're struggling with focus, if you're struggling with a sense of clarity, if you're struggling with the ability to direct your attention or to be productive, if you constantly feel on edge, you have to read chapter 13 of this book. You press right here, you take a deep breath, and then you simply say, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. In fact, a couple days ago, if you look at my Instagram account, you'll see that I was doing a live stream, everybody. And I had a emotional breakdown in the middle of trying to read my book to you live on Instagram. And I just got overwhelmed with just stress and overwhelm. And, no particular reason. It wasn't like, I had a bunch of breakdowns going on with tech, and there was somebody here leaf blowing, and I felt overwhelmed. And I think I was just exhausted from being in a book launch mode for 4 weeks. And I literally started crying on this live stream. And I took my hands out and I just did the high five to the heart. And you can watch that on Instagram or on YouTube. You can see me do it. It's in the video that says I just had an emotional breakdown on my live stream. And you'll watch me. It's about 10 minutes in real time, go from crying and feeling the surge of anxiety to coming back into my body. And so literally, I begin my day with a high five. And I also begin my day by flipping off my stressed out nervous system and coming back into my body and turning on my calm, resting nervous system so that this sucker right up here works, and so that I don't feel on edge. I feel confident in my skin. The other thing that I do as part of my journaling practice is I freeform write down as part of my journaling practice. And by the way, those templates for the journaling practice are available for free You can download them. We've got them in the back of the book. No kidding. The journal isn't even out yet. And I've got journaling templates for free in the back of the book that you can photocopy, you can tear out, you can use. But one of the journaling practices that I do is I write down 5 things that I want, 5 dreams. And I do it every morning without limiting myself and without shrinking it. And one of the things that I'm writing down right now, there's 2 things, and you can write down different things every morning. You can write down ways you want to feel. They can be dreams about somebody else, like that you want somebody to heal from their battle with cancer. They could be something that you want, like the brand new handbag that's coming out. They could be something enormous. Like for me, what I've been writing down a lot recently is I literally want to be the number 1 female podcaster in the world. That's what I want to do. I have always dreamt of dominating in radio. That's kind of how I got my start in the media business. I just hosted a local radio show on Saturday mornings here in Boston. I am a huge fan of Howard Stern. And even in my TED Talk, which is over 10 years old, I say on stage that I want to be one of the leading broadcasters in the world. 10 years later, that dream has not left me, because what's meant for you will always stick with you. So you got a choice, people, either be haunted by it or actually lean toward it. And so I write down every day, I want to be the number 1 female podcaster in the world. And the other thing that I have been writing down recently, and it changes, but the podcast thing has not changed, is there's this particular house in this town that we rent in every summer in Rhode Island. And the family has owned the house for 100 years. And I cannot afford this house right now. I will be able to afford it, but I can't afford it right now. I literally write down that, and I write the address that it'll be mine. And this is a super important practice because so many of us don't even give ourselves permission to dream. And it's a way to train your mind to start to spot opportunity and spot the things that you want instead of resting in default on all the reasons why you can't have it. I see Brendan has joined us. Do you want to chime in on those 3 things, or do you want me to finish the other 2?
No, finish your 2. I'm loving it. I'm taking notes with everybody.
So then the 4th thing that is a daily habit is, this comes from research at Harvard, where they looked at, I think it was 14,000 journals that they had people take at work, where people journaled about their experience at work and, kind of what days and what weeks had the deepest meaning and engagement for people. And they came to realize that kind of the one factor, other than having a manager that really cares about you, that increases your engagement and fulfillment at work, is whether or not you believe you're making progress on something that matters to you. And so this article and research study at Harvard Business labeled this the progress principle, that really fulfillment and meaning comes down to whether or not you're making progress on something that matters to you. This also, by the way, connects back to something I shared earlier, that achieving your dreams doesn't make you happy and fulfilled. Working on them does. And so I want you to adopt the progress principle. And I want to bring it back to what I said originally, which is the first step is drop a pin and know where you are. And then you've got all these tools now to envision where you want to go. And then we need to build a bridge. And the only way that you're going to build this path or this bridge between where you are and where you want to go is you're going to lay a path. And I like to think of that path like it's being laid by bricks. And so how do you bridge the gap between where you are and where you need to go? This beautiful brick path that you're going to be on, you're going to lay it brick by brick. We're going to use the progress principle. And every day, all you got to do is lay a brick. And how do you lay a brick? You just do something a student would do. You watch a YouTube video about the subject. You sign up for a class. You attend a class. You watch a training like this. You read a page in a book. You follow somebody new on social media. You lay a brick by doing one thing every day that it could take less than 5 minutes, everybody. It could be journaling about the thing that you want. You lay a brick every day, and one day the brick's over here, the other day the brick's over there, the next day the brick is right here. But you use this research from Harvard Business School, the progress principle. And I typically, so in my journaling practice, I write down the 5 things, and then I also identify what's the one thing I'm going to do today that matters to me, that's worthy of the high 5. That's my brick that I'm going to lay. And in the podcasting, I'm really busy laying the bricks right now with the podcasting stuff. That is my biggest project for 2022. That and starting a series of events. But biggest thing for me in 2022 is actually launching this podcast. And right now, what am I doing? I'm a student of it. And every single day I lay a brick on the path between me and where I am now and going live with one. And there are a lot of bricks to lay, everybody, because I am a student of what I want to dominate in. Even when I achieve being the number one female podcast host in the world, I will still be a student of podcasting because that's the only way that you stay incredible at what you do, by continuing to learn and to grow. And then the final thing, and again, this is the entire second half of this book. I have a habit that's a mindset habit that I call a high five attitude. And a high five attitude is not like you're like, yeah, every day. A high five attitude is being able to flip yourself from a low, stuck, defeated mental state and high five your attitude into a more optimistic, resilient, and confident mental state. Because every single day, something's going to happen to you. You're not going to get the apartment that you were hoping you were going to get. You're not going to get into that school. Somebody's going to say no. You're going to blow off a promise to go to the gym, and then you're going to feel bad about yourself. You're going to bump into your ex. Somebody's going to do a snarky text. Your best friends are going to go out to lunch and not include you. Like something's going to happen that's going to make you go low. And when that happens, part of what you're learning at Growth Day and why self-awareness is so powerful is you can feel when you're not yourself. You can feel when your attitude is tanking. You can feel when the overwhelm and being defeated comes in. Like part of the reason why I let the tears come up while I was on that live stream is because I know that when you shove it down, it just builds up. And so when you feel it coming, let yourself express it. And then the high five attitude is being aware enough to know that there are simple things that you can do to remove the block, whether it's an emotional block or a mindset block, and get yourself back into a state where you feel a little more in control and you feel a little bit more resilient and you feel a little bit more grounded in yourself, supporting yourself. And so, when life overwhelms me, I high five my heart. When I feel jealous and I feel envious, I remove the block and I unpack it and I flip that attitude into a high five attitude around inspiration. When I start to feel guilty, again, I remove the block of guilt and I ground down into gratitude. When I start to feel insecure, I remove the block and I start to become a student again and I give myself permission to what I want. When I start to feel unworthy, I notice it and I remove the block and I high five myself and remind myself that if I do the work, I deserve and, things will happen. And so those are my daily habits. I use the 5-second rule to push through or to pull away from things. I practice the high five habit and the high five to the heart every single day. I dream in the morning by writing down 5 dreams or 5 things that I want, which trains my mind to spot opportunity and to be resting in positivity and desire and dreams and not in negativity or obstacles. I pick one brick at a time to leverage the progress principle. And whenever I catch myself going low, I immediately try to high five myself back into a place of resilience. It doesn't mean my life is perfect. Doesn't mean that there aren't really hard days. Doesn't mean that there aren't days that I've laid in bed and cried. Doesn't mean that I don't feel the same things. But what I've noticed is that my bounce back into who I really am, my best self, that time between life knocking me down and me being able to pick myself up, I have decreased that profoundly. I have studied morning routines, journaling methods, the science of productivity. It has taken me 3 years to figure out the perfect morning routine journaling method. It takes me less than 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes. Each prompt in the journaling method is backed by science. It is designed to make your mindset more powerful. It's designed to give you control. It's designed to leverage the world's most powerful research around focus and around happiness. And literally, it takes you less than 5 minutes. I'm going to walk you through step by step this week the science behind each one of the prompts. I invite you to print this out. I invite you to go to the 5-second journal and look at the science. And I invite you to think about what's working for you so you can create a morning routine that really empowers your mindset. Because I don't want you to wake up in the morning and immediately let the world in. You're under siege all day long from the world, from your friends, from your work, from your emails, from your social media, from the television, from the 24-hour news cycle. Your dreams deserve 10 to 30 minutes in the morning for you to get your head on straight, for you to focus yourself on things that are positive, for you to figure out how to build momentum and make progress on something that matters to you today, and for you to work on building your deliberate way of thinking so that by doing so, you're going to reprogram your default network in your brain so that your mind automatically starts filtering the world in a way that works for you. That's why I'm teaching you this, because it's all building on the things you learned in week 1, on days 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, we're on day 9 now. So the first prompt is very, very simple. And the first prompt is all about your mood. So the second that you wake up, remember, you're going to get out of bed. If your alarm is your phone, you're going to turn the alarm off, but you're going to leave your phone where it is, and you're not going to take your phone with you to journal, because I do not want you tempted to even look at it. I want your head clear. I want you present. I want 10 lousy minutes for your dreams. Don't your dreams deserve that? Doesn't your sanity and your happiness and your sense of control deserve 10 lousy minutes in the morning? Of course it does. So the first thing I want you to think about is your mood. And the reason why I'm starting with your mood is because there is tremendous research about your mood in the morning and how the mood that you have in the morning and the energy level that you have can impact your confidence all day long. It can impact your productivity all day long. And it's super important for you to do something first thing in the morning to get present to your mood and your energy, and then do something intentional to boost it, because that will have an established, science-backed, proven impact on your productivity and your focus and your happiness all day long. So there's a very simple prompt at the top. It just is, how do I feel? This is your inner compass. This is how you read your energy. It's a little scale, much like a gas tank in a car, from empty to full. Depleted is empty and full is energized. Me this morning, I woke up feeling meh. You want to, and then over here, you're going to explain, why do you feel this way? Now, it's important to identify why you feel meh or why you feel energized and excited, because it makes you present. You see, we're tuning you into your inner wisdom. We are teaching you how to be present and mindful. And even if when you get present to something that's negative, we're teaching you how to turn it around. See, negative isn't bad, it just is what it is. When you recognize that you woke up and you're feeling, meh, which is how I felt this morning, now that you're present to it, you've got the power to get deliberate and shift it. So why did I wake up and go, meh? I'll tell you why. Because there was some woman in the room next to me who was awake at 4:15 this morning, yapping to the person next to her. They weren't, doing anything that I hate hearing in a hotel room, other people through the wall, if you know what I mean. I'm keeping this family friendly. But she was just talking and talking and talking. And then I woke up again at 4:37, and I woke up again at 5:12, and I woke up again at 5:57, and then I woke up again at 6:20. And then I just got up. I mean, my alarm hadn't even gotten up yet. And I was so annoyed. And that's why it was like, meh, because of this chick next to me in the hotel room. It's actually the first thing that I said to Mandy. So I wrote down, I feel this way because I kept getting interrupted in my sleep and woken up by this person, and that bothered me. And the other reason why I feel meh is my neck kind of hurts. Sleeping in so many hotel beds, it's been lousy for my 50-year-old neck. So now the next thing that you're going to do, how long did that take? 5 seconds. 5 seconds to circle this, 5 seconds to explain why. Now the next one, most important. To feel more energized, I can. We want to boost your mood in the morning. It takes 5 seconds to think about it. So I wrote down, I'm going to get up and exercise. So my business partner, Mandy, and I, we schlepped our way to a Soul Cycle class, a 45-minute spin class here. It was, I'm not in spin shape. That's what I learned this morning. But let me tell you, it boosted my energy. So in just those 3 5-second questions, I have leveraged very profound and powerful science around mood to take control of my mindset. I could have easily in my old life woken up, been interrupted by some woman next door to me in the hotel all night long, been annoyed about it, carried that like, oh, I didn't get enough sleep, all through my entire day. All through my entire day. How many of you have done that? You got a lousy night's sleep, or somebody interrupted you when you're sleeping in a hotel, like what happened to me, or the dog barked and had to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning, or maybe one of your kids came home after a night of partying and then you were upset and you had to deal with that. Then you went back. And so you wake up and your mood is lousy. And then all day long, you basically make one moment where you wake up in a bad mood become a bad day. You're not going to do that anymore. That's the power of a mindset reset. And that's why you're going to start with mood when you wake up. Second piece of research, and this comes from a whole field of study called neurobics. Neurobics is like aerobics for your mind. I didn't make this up. This is literally, you can speed up the development of new neural pathways by marrying physical activity with a change in thought. And so traditionally, I know you've covered this on your show, if you, for example, were to brush your teeth, I'm a right-hander, if you were to brush it with your other hand and think a new thought, the fact that your brain is focusing on brushing with your non-dominant hand activates more focus on the new thought. It accelerates the learning. So you take neurobics, a physical activity with a different thought, and let's talk about a high five, for example. What does a high five mean to you?
That somebody did something awesome or I did something awesome.
Correct. And if you think about the times in your life when you've gotten a high five, it's because somebody's like, Tom, you're amazing. Tom, get your attitude out of the can. You got this. Tom, you're going to make this shot. Tom, we can still win. I believe in you. Keep going. You have a lifetime positive association with giving other people high fives stored right here in your subconscious mind. When you raise your hand to your own reflection, it is impossible for you to think, God, I look fat. Boy, am I an asshole. I really screwed up my life. You can't do it because your lifetime association with this motion is all, I believe in you, I got you, I see you, I celebrate you. And so you, in the moment of doing it, override decades of negative self-talk. It's incredible. Now, have you ever gotten a high five where somebody misses the hand or it's sort of like, it sucks, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, what do you do when that happens?
I redo it.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's because a high five requires you to be present and there is an intention behind it. So you can't raise your hand to your own reflection without now grounding yourself in the moment. That's just the beginning of the research. I can go on about the NBA.
And that was my favorite part. Hearing about the NBA, like even now it's giving me chills. Like, and especially because we're recording this still as everybody thought we were getting out of the pandemic. And now we've got the variant. Now even I'm starting to worry about the lack of physical contact and just like the cues that we give each other through touch like that. So this was one of my favorite parts of the book. The NBA thing.
I love this research too, because you know what happened with the high five is, look, I did this on a low moment for myself. Like, so my brand of self-help is Mel's life is kind of fucked up at the moment and she can't figure out how to help herself. So she stumbles by accident on something really stupid on its face and it feels good. And then I share it with my audience. And if they pick up on it and then I'm like, okay, we're on to something. So for me, the high five, Tom, began, I'm fired from my talk show. My book contract is canceled. Every speech has been canceled. My kids are now home. So we've got 3 kids, 22, 20, age 15, all in varying states of distress. I am triggered because my origin story, as you know, from being on the show and us being friends, the 5-second rule was 12 years ago, losing everything. And so I'm now having this feeling like I'm about to lose everything. And I'm also feeling like I'm losing grip on reality as the pandemic is hitting and as my kids are in distress. And I don't know what to do, just like everybody on the planet. I find myself in my bathroom one morning in my underwear, and I am having this spiral of negative thoughts. I look like shit. I don't know how to fix this. I wish somebody would solve this for me. I feel overwhelmed. I feel scared about my parents' health. I feel scared about everybody on the front lines. And even though I'm literally, like you, somebody that empowers other people, I didn't know what the fuck to say to myself. And as pathetic as it sounds, I found myself just raising my hand, just in a way to basically be like, shut up, Mel. Come on, girl. You, like, put your shoulders back, lift your chin. You got this. You can do this. And something shifted, and I went on with my day. And then the next morning, I walk into my bathroom, and this is the other weird thing about the high five. I've literally either criticized myself or ignored myself in the mirror for decades. When you start to have a moment with yourself, the crazy part is you start to build a partnership with yourself.
That's interesting.
Like, you know, when you are pulling out of your driveway or you're walking down the street and you see a neighbor and they greet you, you will start to have that experience when you create this intentional moment with yourself in the mirror every morning. And so as I started to do this, I thought, this is actually making me feel like the wind is at my back when I leave the bathroom. It's making me feel just like when you leave a huddle in sports and you high five, or you're a runner running a race or doing some big endurance challenge and some spectator high fives you, or another racer's like, come on, you got this, as you're dragging down low. It gives you a little energy. Like, I think too about this high five a lot. Like, I know you're friends with David Goggins. I'm a huge fan of Goggins. And I know there's a lot of people that watch this show, especially men, that are like, this sounds kind of stupid. This is the equivalent of Goggins' cookie jar moment. So we all think, like, we've all been raised like, tough love, hard on myself, this, bullshit. The research is clear on this. Being hard on yourself is not fucking motivating. It's demotivating. And if you already feel like a failure, or you feel a sense of shame, or you're overwhelmed, beating yourself up for where you are does not fucking work. It drives you into the gutter. The most motivating force in the world, on the planet, based on research, hands down, is empowerment, encouragement, support, and celebration. And for our entire lives, we have outsourced that to somebody else. The research is very clear. So the NBA study, they did this big study looking at NBA teams. And they could predict in the study who was going to be in the championship rounds based on, in the preseason, what teams had the most high fives, fist bumps, and back pats. Why? Because those kind of gestures create partnership and trust. And I'm here to tell you, when you start doing it in the mirror, you're creating partnership and trust with yourself. And so, one of the things that I love about this is that in a moment when you feel alone, you can give yourself the boost, the support, the empowerment that you need to keep going. And here's another piece of research that's also like, holy cow. You're a big proponent of the growth mindset. You guys talk about it all the time on this show, right? So researchers wanted to know, what is the most empowering way to motivate kids through a really big challenge, okay? They divide the kids into 3 groups. This takes the marshmallow test to a whole nother level. You got one group of kids that are doing a challenging task, and they're getting the fixed mindset praise, which we all know does not work. Oh, Tom, you're so smart. Oh, Tom, I love your glasses. That's going to help you. Oh, Tom, you got a great smile. Oh, Tom, I just love so much about you. I know you can do this. So that's one group. The second group gets the growth mindset kind of praise. Tom, you are such a hard worker. Tom, your perseverance is unbelievable. Tom, you just keep going. That does better, obviously, than telling you that you're smart, because it makes you motivated to work hard. The third group, they just got a simple high five. The researchers didn't even say anything to the kids. They just walked up, gave them a high five. The group of kids that got a simple high five outperformed, outworked through all of the challenges, all of the other forms of praise. Why? Because a high five is something deeper than praise. It fulfills your most fundamental needs as a human being. When somebody high fives you, you feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel like somebody has acknowledged you for the unique person that you are. Let's just talk for a second about the things that go viral. You can always find going viral a teacher standing outside of a classroom doing what? Greeting kids with individual handshakes. And we see that and we're like, oh, that's amazing. Why? Because every one of those kids before they walk into the classroom feels seen, they feel heard, and they feel acknowledged for the unique individual that they are, all through a simple handshake or high five. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this is because in starting to just kind of put it out there very casually on the story, in the very beginning, because I've been researching this now for a year, I started to get back all of the objections that people had to doing it. And they're fucking sad, Tom. And this gets to the heart of why I think so many people are stuck. One of the biggest objections that people had to standing in front of the mirror, take a moment, look at yourself, and then raise your hand, is people said over and over and over again, I haven't done anything worthy of high-fiving. High-fiving feels like a celebration. I don't have the number on the scale that I want. I don't like my bank account. I don't enjoy what I do for a living. I've made a shitload of mistakes. I'm struggling with trauma. I don't have anything to celebrate. And what I realized is people are making a fundamental mistake. You are withholding the very support, empowerment, and celebration that you need to change and to do the hard work and to face the things that you're scared of. And that's why you're not changing.
This is so interesting. So I'm going to push you on this. I'm super curious because one of the things I love about you is you're so blunt and honest about, hey, if you want to have self-worth, you have to do things that you think are worthy. I'm a huge proponent of that. And yet I do recognize that you have to let yourself off the hook to really get started. So how do you help people anchor on something? Is it just, hey, it's the fucking neurochemistry of the situation, you have to do it?
Yeah, pretty much. Because if you can't stand in front of the mirror and raise your hand and high five yourself just because you got your ass out of bed and you're breathing, you will never get what you want in life, ever. There is something in the resistance to it. And if you unpack the resistance, you will find the reason why you don't have what you want. You either think you're not worthy of it, or you think that it's kind of stupid, or you have been brought up to believe that for women in particular, you're going to be bitchy or selfish or not likable if you're celebrating yourself. There is something in the resistance to you simply cheering for yourself.
So talk to the person though that, so as of right now, they really believe the world has shown them that they aren't worthy. It's not like they question it. They know it to be true.
Yeah.
How do you help people? Because I recognize that as a lie, or even if it's true, it's useless. But how do you help people out of that moment?
So the first thing that I would say is, how is treating yourself as if you're unworthy helping you? Like, let's just get strategic and common sense about it. Is the negative shit you're saying and the support that you're withholding helping you feel better? If it's not, try this. Try celebrating yourself 5 days in a row. Literally, try starting your day by waking up and raising your hand and high-fiving yourself in the mirror just because you're breathing, and see what happens. We have a woman that wrote to us who's in a domestic violence shelter.
Oof.
She's lost everything. She's been in abusive relationships. She has a tremendous amount of childhood trauma. She is doing the high five habit, and here's what she had to say about it. I have nothing right now. I have a tremendous amount of evidence from my life that I have fucked everything up. But you know what this high five habit is showing me? I still have me. I can have my own back. I can be here for myself. The world has told me and convinced me that I can't, but every morning when I stand here and I stare at myself in the mirror and I raise my hand in defiance of all the shit that's happened to me, I keep going. I am saying I believe in myself. And when you have that small reversal, that small act of defiance, and that's what it is. If you're like heavy and you're eating emotionally or you're feeding your trauma, when you raise your hand and celebrate yourself, even though you don't like what you look like, it's an act of fucking defiance to all the stuff that you have survived in your life. And the best part about it, you don't have to fucking say anything. And you know, the reason why this is so important is most mantras are complete bullshit because you don't believe it. You know, we all know we need to accept ourselves. We all know we need to love ourselves, but how? How do you do it, to your point, when you have a bunch of evidence stacked up that you've failed or reasons that you see that make you feel like you've blown it or you're not worthy of it? I'll tell you how. You freaking raise your hand and high five yourself anyway. Because beating yourself up will not make you do the work to get healthy. And tearing yourself down over the shit that you've done or the terrible relationships that you're in, it's not going to empower you to change the patterns that are keeping you stuck. But raising your hand in an act of defiance or a fuck you to the past that you survived and saying, I'm still here, which means I still have a shot to change my life. That is what this means. Meditation trains you to not react to your thoughts. That's what meditation trains you to do. A thought comes in, you're a piece of shit. That's what the thought is. And you don't go, you're right, I'm a piece of shit. You just go, oh, interesting. There it goes. Goodbye. You just let thoughts come up and you let them go down. You're training yourself in the science of not reacting to those thoughts, to separating yourself from the narrative in your head. Would you like to add anything, expert in meditation? No, seriously. I mean, like, Chris is way more of a meditation guru than I am.
Well, earlier you talked about the importance of just being self-aware, and that's also just a fringe benefit of meditation, because the more you do it, the more you, to your point, you just become aware of these thoughts or messages or whatever may be flowing through your head, and just the act of being aware of it.
Okay, now let me tell you why the high five habit is a motherfucking game changer. You ready, everybody? You ready? What about tough love? I'm going to get you there in a minute, because I think tough love is horse. Honesty and the high five habit are your winning formula. You will never change your life by beating yourself up. Does not work. Period. Please explain to me how shaming yourself actually makes you feel motivated. It doesn't. All the research shows that when you're an asshole to yourself, tough love, hard on yourself, that it's demoralizing. Even Goggins, okay, who I love, I love David Goggins. Give it up for David Goggins. Even David Goggins has a positive, encouraging philosophy when the hitting the fan. If you haven't read Can't Hurt Me, phenomenal book. And what is the metaphor he uses as he's running his 100-mile races and his feet are bleeding and he's like, basically ready to die as he's doing it? The cookie jar. He literally visualizes going into a mental cookie jar and grabbing a cookie, which is a positive thought about why you're running this 100-mile race. It's like a mental high five. It's encouraging and supporting and celebrating you in going forward. He doesn't sit there and go, you motherfucker, he doesn't say that to himself. He encourages himself. You have to fight to believe in yourself. Life belittles you. Other people criticize you. You got to be your biggest cheerleader, and you've never been trained how. So this is where the high five habit comes in, and this is why it was different than meditation. Meditation helps you separate yourself from your thoughts. Meditation helps you become non-reactive to your thoughts. Meditation increases self-awareness. The high five habit and everything that I'm writing about in this new book, everyone, overrides the default negative programming in your mind. And it programs in positive and empowering programming related to you. Let me explain the science behind this, because this is crazy. And I can say this with this much passion because I've researched this now for over a year. I've talked to the world's leading experts in neuroscience, in habits, in human behavior. Everybody that I've done a podcast with, from Ed Millett to Tom Bilyeu to Dr. Daniel Amen to Lewis Howes to Jenna Kutchner to Almost 30, to, like, the list goes on. We're doing 60 podcast interviews. Jay Shetty is next week, Brendan Burchard, everybody. Dave Hollis is tomorrow. Fern Cotton in the UK is tomorrow. It's just going on and on and on. I mean, we've got Trent Shelton coming up. We've got Anthony Trucks coming up. Like, it's so many. Glow Antonum. I mean, just Hoya Webb. I'm going to just talk to everybody about this, because everybody that hears it goes, holy shit, this is unbelievable, Mel. Here's why the high five habit is what you need. Think about what a high five means. And remember, the book is called The High Five Habit. When you buy it, go to highfivehabit.com. Buy it today. You need this book. This is the book you need right now, because the last 18 months have beaten the shit out of you. So you now need habits of picking yourself up and encouraging yourself as you pivot and you move forward. So here's why this is so powerful. For your entire life, as you've been high-fiving everybody else, the gesture has communicated, I believe in you, I celebrate you, I see you, I love you, you got this, I got your back. All that programming is already in your subconscious brain. So guess what happens when you stand in front of the mirror and you look at yourself, the person that you criticize or you ignore, and you raise your hand and high five yourself? What do you think happens when you do that same gesture to yourself? Guess what? Your brain recognizes the gesture. It flips into your subconscious and goes, oh, we believe in this person. Oh, we love this person. We celebrate this person. It's freaking bananas. It shuts off your inner critic. In fact, it's impossible. Go to a mirror when we're done and try to high five yourself. Two things are going to happen. First of all, you can't be like, I suck, and high five yourself. It's neurologically impossible. Your brain will not allow it to happen, because it cannot and will not associate that hand gesture with anything but I love you and I believe in you and let's do this. It's already programmed in your mind. The second thing that you're going to feel is resistance. You're going to think this is weird. And let me tell you something, that resistance is sad. That resistance is all of your shame. It's everything that's ever been done to you. It is all of your judgment. It's the fact that you don't think you are where you should be in life. And so as you're about to high five yourself, you're going to resist doing it because you don't believe you deserve it. And see, I'm here to tell you that's sad. And the other thing I'm here to tell you is...
So when you look in the mirror and you say, because I've done this, and you give yourself a high five, and immediately the thought is, well, this is so stupid.
Yes.
You're saying what's behind that belief in the act of giving a high five is stupid, is actually your own shame.
Yes.
Disbelief.
Yes. Tell her, when you looked in the mirror, as you're starting to high five, because you're working on stuff, when you look in a mirror, what's the nasty ass shit you have said about you, Chris Robbins, for years?
Well, that doesn't...
Answer. Can you answer the question so people understand that even though we're a cute couple, which people keep saying, that Chris Robbins was a heavy guy. For years, you'd look in the mirror because your restaurant business failed and you feel like you had a failed career. You would see a person who what?
Was not good enough.
Was not good enough. Was a failure. Oop, the wind from the AC. Turning off the AC.
But
hold on, I want people to hear you say it, because what would Chris Robbins think and say about himself?
That you're a failure.
You're a failure. So does a person who believes that they're a failure deserve a high five?
Of course not.
That's why you resist it, and that's why you say this is weird. It's because of your own opinion about yourself. Chris said he felt like a failure, which is why when he went to high five himself, it felt weird, because you don't high five somebody that you think is a failure. So what I'm here to tell you is I need you to try it for 5 days. I need you to try it for 5 days. And yeah, I see. I need to make money. I need to do this. I need to lose the weight. Do you think that you're more likely to make more money and lose the weight if you're supporting yourself, or if you're standing in front of the mirror beating the out of yourself? Huh? True. Yeah, I know. It's so obvious. It's a miracle that nobody Laura's on day 2 of doing it. It's a miracle nobody has actually taught us this. Chris, what did you want to say, darling? I just wanted people to understand that this shit is deep. And even people that you look at that are like, oh, they got it all together. The stuff you say to yourself, all of us, it's terrible. So what were you going to say, hon?
No, I'm just drawing from this that if you, behind your suggestion is do this, but what happens is when you are doing it, often what goes through your head is, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? And what you're saying is, look deeper, because what's behind that belief that it's stupid is one or many negative thoughts or stories that you have about yourself.
Correct. All of which are one story. I don't deserve a high five. I don't deserve a high five because I haven't done anything worthy of a high five, or I believe that because of my past, I'm not worthy, or nor do I deserve one.
Well, like this morning I got up.
Yep.
And I gave myself a high five.
Oh.
And what went through my head was that this is stupid because I'm just giving myself a high five because my thought pattern was I said I was going to get up at 5:30 to exercise. I did get up at 5:30.
Yep.
So I gave myself a high five for having gotten up.
Great.
But I still said, this is stupid. Why am I doing this?
It didn't feel good at all?
Well, no. I mean, yes, but I'm just saying that shaking that belief.
Yes.
This is silly.
Yes.
Is.
Do you know how hard, nobody realizes how watch this kid on the bike, sweetheart.
No hands on the steering.
Well, yeah, he's got great balance. He's like riding down the road, no hands on his bike, holding the phone in his ear. You are the hardest person I know on themselves. So I think if I get out of bed and exercise at 5:30 in the morning, I not only deserve a high five, I need a marching band to celebrate that shit. You're like, I dragged my ass out of bed at 5:30. I tried to high five myself, and now it's stupid because I should be doing this. No,
that's true.
Bring a sense of celebration and enthusiasm. Support yourself, everyone. It's very simple. You're going to look at yourself in the mirror, and you're going to leverage some research out of Harvard.
We'll talk about that too. Yeah, I want to dive into that.
So you're basically just going to look at yourself in the mirror and you're going to ask yourself, what does that human being need from me today? How can I show up for him or her or they? How do I do that today? Kindness? Do I need to be more courageous or bold? You kind of set this intention for yourself. And then you're simply going to raise your hand and you're going to high five yourself. Now, a couple things I want you to expect. Number one, it will feel weird, period. It feels weird for everybody, because it is the opposite of what you're doing right now. And so your brain is going to reject it as odd. Number two, you're either going to have one of two reactions. That's it. There's no middle ground. You will either have a very profound positive experience where you're going to laugh, probably because it kind of feels good and it's kind of silly, or you're going to burst into tears in a positive way. Because it's a release that you have finally woken up and started supporting yourself. You just got it. And that's where the tears come from. But more likely, although maybe not for you because you're a fan of this podcast, but more likely you will feel resistance. And the resistance is the dust on the mirror. Every single morning, Jay, we bring with us our entire past. Whatever's been done to you, whether it's trauma or discrimination or abuse or neglect or abandonment, it is standing between you and the mirror. It's the dust. And you see that dust and you say, that means that I am not worthy. I am not lovable. So you see a human being that's distorted and you say to yourself, because of what's happened, I don't deserve a high five. Or if you're a human being, you've done a ton of stuff that you regret. And so all the things that wish you could change, that you would forgive Jay or you'd forgive Mel Robbins for, you cannot forgive yourself. It's more dust. And so you stand there and you say, because of all that stuff that I did, I'm unworthy or I'm unlovable or I'm this or I'm that. And that dust keeps you from seeing a human being who deserves support and celebration. Or another form of the dust, which is the resistance, is that you actually believe that you do not deserve to be celebrated or supported unless you have the bank account or the number on the scale, or you drive in the car or live in the neighborhood, or your hair is less kinky, or you're this or you're that. And so you withhold the very support and celebration that you need in order to change your life from you because you haven't done it yet. That's where the resistance comes from. And so I'm here to say you got to try this for 5 days because it's going to feel weird. You're going to resist it. And what's going to happen is you'll notice as you raise your hand, and this is where the science gets amazing. As you raise your hand, Jay, you will go from thinking this is weird or thinking this is stupid to silence. And this is explained by science. There is a field of study called neurobics. Neurobics is a word that I did not invent. It is aerobic or physical movement with new neural pathway development. And research has shown that when you use neurobics, it is the fastest way to form new neural pathways. So the way that you do it is you take an unexpected physical movement, like high-fiving yourself, something you've never done, and you marry it with a thought. Now, here's where things get crazy cool. You've been high-fiving people your whole life. You've been receiving high fives your whole life. So Jay, when you high-five somebody, what are you communicating through the gesture?
A feeling of connectedness, a feeling of support, a feeling of I'm congratulating you or celebrating you, a feeling of you've got this, like that kind of feeling.
Yeah, completely. All of it is programmed in your subconscious brain. When you go to raise your hand to high five somebody, I can never high five Jay and go, you're a jerk. Jay, I don't like you. Jay, I hope your tea, which I'm a founding club member of, really fails. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Because the programming is already in your brain.
Yes.
So you cannot look at yourself in the mirror and think terrible things while you're high-fiving yourself because your brain won't allow it.
Right.
It is programmed to think something different. And as you repeat this every day, just 5 days, dear God, give me 5 days of doing this, you will override the critic and you will reprogram your mind to associate belief, love, encouragement, support, resilience with your own reflection. This is why I don't even see myself in terms of a body anymore. I see a human being that I love, that I support, just like I would a friend or a child that I love unconditionally. It's mind-blowing, but that's not all. So I talked to our pal, Dr. Daniel Amen, and this isn't even in the book. This is just something I learned 2 weeks ago. He went bananas when I talked about this thing. So Jay, when you high-five somebody else, your brain drips dopamine. The reason why when you do this, even on a low morning, you get a boost in your mood and a little bit of clarity, is you get a drip of dopamine by high-fiving yourself. Again, because the programming is already in your brain. You're just now turning it from everybody else and giving it to yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a second thing that's super cool. So Dr. Amen was explaining, he said, Mel, when you leave the bathroom, you feel kind of peppy, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird. He said, well, let me tell you what that is. He said, your nervous system is encoded with celebratory energy. When you wave hello, you're raising your arms. When you cross a finish line, you raise your arms. When you hug somebody, you raise your arms. When you high-five somebody, you raise your arms. When you do this every morning, especially when you're going through a challenging moment, your nervous system recognizes the celebratory gesture and gives you a jolt of energy. Is that not incredible? And, I have this saying about confidence that I've only recently kind of stumbled into as I've been digging into more research around the science of confidence and the skill of confidence. Because a lot of people think that confidence is a personality trait. It's not. It's actually a skill that you build through action. And a lot of people think confidence is a state of belief. It can be, but that's not where it begins. And so I say that confidence is the willingness to try. That's all that it is. Knowing that you may succeed or survive, but you'll still try. And to me, all those people that we admire most, that's what they're doing. They have the ability to tune into those instincts that are true for them. Because the fact is, there's only one you. That's it. And you matter because there's only one you, and there's only ever going to be one you. And your instincts and your experiences and your inner wisdom is a gift to the world. And every time that you tune it out because of the habit of hesitating or the habit of self-doubt or the habit of worrying or the habit of overthinking, you are robbing the world of that gift that you have to give to everybody. And you can use this simple, stupid, silly tool to train yourself to not only hear it, but also to develop the skill of courage to act on it.
Powerful. And is there any area of your life where you feel like you lack courage still?
I'll admit it's kind of easy. I think we all kind of go through those moments where you feel like you're behind. And I think social media is both an incredible tool, and it can also be one of those triggers that makes you feel like, look at how many followers this guy has. And I'm like so tiny compared to this guy right here. Like, it's easy to use technology and social media not for inspiration, but actually as a way to bash yourself that you're not doing what other people are doing.
Comparison or whatever.
Yes. And so I think that I use the rule a lot for patience. I notice that my insecurity rises up because right now, look, I did a ridiculous number of speeches last year. I travel way too much. I don't want my life to look like that. It's a champagne problem. I get it.
Yeah.
But I also have 3 kids in a marriage that I love, and I really feel depleted when I'm not with them. And so I'm practicing patience as I make an intentional pivot in the kind of business that I'm running so that I have more of a life that I want as well. Yeah. So that's one area. I don't feel insecure as much as, the term deliberate practice, right? And the 5-hour rule where...
Deliberate practice, is that from the Talent Code?
Well, the deliberate practice is actually a psychological principle.
I think it was in a book called The Talent Code, but yeah.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a psychological principle that, the 10,000 hour rule.
I mean, deliberate practice is in sports.
Yes. So deliberate practice is this idea that, you could do 10,000 hours at anything and become an expert at it, but the way to do it faster is to do deliberate practice, which means you're practicing with the intention of improving, and there's a feedback loop.
Yeah. So you do 2,000 hours as opposed to 10,000.
Correct. Right. Like, for example, if you want to become an expert at guitar, learn scales. Don't just sit there for 10,000 hours and play the same song. Right. If you learn scales, you get the finger dexterity and the muscle memory and the neural pathway development. By the way. Yes, I saw your guitar over there. So hard. I saw your guitar. I always wanted to play guitar, but instead I forced my 3 children to learn.
That's good. You can just enjoy it. You just watch them.
Exactly.
My brother's, the number 1 jazz violinist in the world.
What?
Yeah. And so I grew up watching the most incredible,
Now, is he built like you, too?
He used to be even, more jacked. They used to call him the Incredible Hulk of violin because he was just
wow, snap the thing in half as
he would. He would, slam it like Jimi Hendrix style, yeah. But now he's leaned up a bunch, actually. And so he's incredible. So I used to just be all awestruck by his gifts. And it was unbelievable, his skill. And so I learned guitar. I taught myself when I was 18 just because I was like, I have to know something, in terms of music. Cool. I can barely, I'm like a hack, but, at least I can do something. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I'm kind of in this mode of improving myself. And I'll give you one more thing that I'm working on. So I kind of think about my life and my work in 3 buckets. So we got this bucket here, we got this bucket, and we got this bucket. And so when you think about your business or you think about your passion or you think about work, I think about, okay, what do I need to do in terms of how much time and what actions do I need to take in order to develop the skills so that I can perform the work? So there's the deliberate practice that goes into practicing your skill and your
mastery.
And your competency mastery, so that when it comes time to actually deliver the work, whether that's selling or standing on a stage or writing a book or talking to people or selling real estate or whatever it is that may be your passion, deliver. This is the one I neglected last year. This bucket is, what are you doing to personally develop yourself so that you are the most capable, fulfilled, and satisfied human being, so that when you show up to do your competency and your skills and the delivery, that you as the human being are able to do that.
Yeah.
And so I've been spending a lot more time consuming content, reading books, watching, your incredible show, and learning from other people. And I think that one of the traps that we entrepreneurs get into is we I was feeling last year anyway, like I was on a treadmill, and when I wasn't looking, somebody was coming by and turning up the speed.
Sure.
And I was only in this alley.
And increasing the hills,
Yes. Yes. And so, and if you're my age, you need like a diaper when somebody does that. You're on a treadmill and a leash to keep you attached to it. Exactly. So I've been focusing a lot on this, and it's been interesting because you and I were talking earlier too about you going to India and some of the stuff that you learned in terms of the different states to be in. And I use one where I pay attention to where I'm feeling depleted versus where I'm energized. And here's the thing. You can be doing things that are really hard that energize you. You can be doing things that are really scary that energize you. The same is true with things that deplete you. There are things in your life that are really easy for you. There are people that you hang out with, by the way, that you've been hanging out with for years, but they deplete you. And so I've been starting to become more deliberate about how I distance myself from things that deplete me and how I spend more time and energy either doing or pushing myself to do those things that actually energize me. And this gets back to your message around passion, right? And that, you know, the art and the skill of building a life that is guided by the things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Do you know what the number one habit is that has the greatest impact on the quality of your life when it comes to happiness, success, wellness? The number one habit in personal development. I see meditation in the chat. Do you have a guess? Sleep, I see. Keep going, keep going. Your thoughts. Kristen's getting closer. The number, journaling. There's another one. Belief, mindset, feelings, self-talk. The number one habit isn't gratitude, everyone. The number one habit that makes the biggest difference on the quality of your life is being kind to yourself. Being kind to yourself. And it is also the habit that we practice the least. And so I'll take it back to everything I've talked about. Sleep and prioritizing it is a way to be kind to yourself. If you love somebody, you want them to get a good night's sleep. It's why we make our kids go to bed so that they can have a good night's sleep and wake up and be in a good mood. And by the way, the mood that you're in the morning impacts your productivity for the first 4 hours of the day, positive or negative. When you set the alarm intentionally so that you are thinking about your needs and what waking up for yourself would look like the next morning, you're being kind to yourself. When you wake up for yourself, you get out of bed when that alarm rings. You put your hands on your heart and you say, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved. Today's going to be a good day. You're being kind to yourself. You're being kind to your nervous system. When you make your bed for yourself as a gift to come back to tonight, beautiful place to lay down and sleep and dream and complete the day, you're being kind to yourself. When you give yourself a high five in the mirror, you don't just dismiss yourself or go, oh God, look at these saddlebag gels. Oh my God, and this neck and my gray hair and oh. When you do this instead, you're practicing kindness. When you write down 5 things that you want, you would want your friend to have the things that they want. You cheer for them. But when it comes to you, you don't do that for you. So these are all teeny little habits and behavior changes that allow you to practice not only putting yourself first and building a foundation upon which you can be successful and focused and productive based on the science, but it's so much deeper than that. It's really living your life in a way where you are giving to yourself the thing that you give so freely to everybody else and that you need the most. You're seeing yourself, you're hearing your needs, you're fulfilling your needs, and you're showing yourself the kindness that you deserve. And when you feel uplifted by you, there ain't nothing that's going to stop you. Being kind to yourself, in my opinion, is also accepting life as it is and not making yourself wrong for the things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis to deal with your life as it is. See, we all have expectations, and I think there's a lot I think that there are times where personal development can equal an attempt to be perfect. And that's not what I believe at all. Mm-hmm. I think we're all works in progress. I think unless you want to be a monk and live on your own, there's no way that you're going to be able to be in control every single day of your life. And that the skill, truly, everyone, is to ride the up and down waves of life and not have those waves that come crashing over take you down and leave you in a down. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we want to be more like the raft that's riding the waves. And what takes you down even further when your mom who has dementia gets up and it really just, you know, blows a hole in the way that your day is supposed to start is you mentally then start to beat yourself up for the fact that it didn't go how you wanted it to go. Mm-hmm. And the real skill in life, because there's always going to be ups and downs, everybody, always. And you don't want it any other way, because confidence, resilience, courage, it's like steel. It's forged in fire. Even in those low moments, you've got the biggest opportunity to build your confidence, to build your resilience. Resilience is the ability to not let your emotions hijack you when life happens. It's the ability to ride the waves. And you have a particular reality that I don't have right now. You have a mother with dementia. And accepting that that is going to derail certain things and learning how to be kind with yourself and allow yourself to ride that wave without making it mean I suck, I blew it, today sucks, we're off the rails, I might as well not wash my hair, I might as well not make the phone call. Now that this one thing happened, the whole thing is screwed. The real thing is, okay, we're off track for a half an hour and I only have 5 minutes now. What's the one thing I could do to ground myself? And I'm going to tell you what the one thing is. Put your hands on your heart. You've just dealt with this issue with your mom. It's upsetting because she's got dementia, which is upsetting, I'm sure. You put your hands on your heart, you go, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. Today is still going to be a good day. Mm-hmm. And then high five yourself in the mirror and get back out there. And skip the part where you make yourself wrong.
2 modes to your brain that you need to know about. There's autopilot. We've all experienced that. You know, you drive to work and get there and you're like, oh, who drove the car? Oh my God. Like, I don't even remember driving the car here. Yeah. Well, you did, Lewis. You drove the car. But the thing is that you were in the mode of your brain that's called autopilot. Well, what is autopilot? Autopilot is the interior part of your brain. You'll hear neuroscientists and psychologists talk about the basal ganglia. Very important thing to understand is that there's a part of your brain that its entire job is basically to execute your habits. Habits, big fancy word, means something very simple. Behaviors that you repeat without even thinking about it. When you pull your pants on in the morning, I guarantee you either put your left or your right leg in first. And you have to stop and think about which one it is, don't you? Mm-hmm. But not when you're putting your pants on.
Right, exactly.
Because that behavior is what researchers call a habit loop. Mm-hmm. It gets encoded as a closed loop system right here. Now, the problem for most of us is that half of the day we're on autopilot. And that's not me making a guess. That's what researchers that study habits and study psychology say. That half of your day, you're basically kind of checked out and you're on autopilot. And when you're checked out and you're on autopilot, any behavior pattern that you repeat can take over. And guess what are behavior patterns that we repeat? Thinking patterns. So self-doubt, worry, procrastination, overthinking, analysis paralysis, fear, those are all thinking patterns that are habits. One of the most important things that I want people to understand is that you're actually not a worrier. You have a habit of worrying. Big difference. Mm-hmm. You're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. And when you understand that any behavior pattern, whether it is a thinking pattern like you doubt yourself all the time, or you get trapped upstairs noodling everything and you can never get started, or whether it's a behavior pattern like you drink too much, or you snap at your kids, or you micromanage your team. Every one of those behavior patterns and thinking patterns can actually be interrupted and replaced using science. Now, let's talk about the second part of the brain. Drive. That's this puppy right here. This is what you want. This is your prefrontal cortex. Drive is the mode where you're in charge of your thoughts, okay? It's where you are fully awake, you are present, and you are driving your thoughts and actions. When you're doing that, your prefrontal cortex is active. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that you need in order to learn new behavior, in order to do something difficult, in order to do something uncertain, in order to do strategic thinking. So I'm going to give you an example. So I'm a righty. If I were to try to write with my left hand, Lewis is going to torture me and tie my hand behind my back and make me do this, I could do it. It would look like I was writing with my foot. And if Lewis came up to me and said, "Hey, Mel, you want some bulletproof coffee?" I'd be like, "Lewis, I'm trying to concentrate. I can't do this." My prefrontal cortex would be el fuego because it is firing on all cylinders to communicate to my hand new behavior. So the thing that's cool about that is that you can use a simple trick. The moment you feel yourself hesitate, the moment you've got one of those moments where you know that you need to, this is that moment that Lewis talks to you about where you got to step outside of your comfort zone and you've got to lean into your passion and you've got to really take some risks and you got to feel the fear and you got to do it anyway. That's the moment where you just woke up and now you got a decision to make. Are you going to drift back into the habits or are you going to awaken your prefrontal cortex and drive forward and focus and do something new? And so the work that I've been doing and speaking about is all about the 5-second rule, which is a trick that I invented by mistake that helps you manually switch, no joke, your brain. It turns off and interrupts the part of the brain that is where all your habits and your behavior patterns are encoded, and it awakens your prefrontal cortex, which in 5 seconds flat allows your brain to help you change.
What you've learned in terms of how we keep ourselves locked in these
this
cycles.
is incredible. It's incredible. So the morning that I discovered this thing, I'll kind of unpack this because the first morning and the second morning, I know that you're going to take this boom, even deeper. So here we go, everybody, buckle up. So it's April 2020. And, I can't use my normal coping mechanisms. We're all in quarantine. So as I lose my dream job and my kids' college experience implode and they're grieving and upset and sad and I'm terrified for I'm scared for everybody and the frontline workers and life is upside down and the anxiety starts to kind of roll back in. I can't run to Target. I can't go to the coffee shop. I can't distract myself by running to do a speech. I can't go see my friends. All of the busyness, by the way, which I now can see was a form of self-regulating stress and trauma. That if I'm on the run, I don't have to deal with the woman in the mirror. If I'm moving and the adrenaline is pumping, I don't actually have to sit and be with myself. Maybe I can just outrun this stuff. And so and even the genesis of the 5-second rule, the genesis was, if I move fast enough, if I launch myself out of that bed, maybe I won't be there when the anxiety hits. So even that was a perfect illustration of just push through it, don't deal with it. It's a fast thing that has profound effect, but it doesn't hit the source of what's causing all of the hatred and the tension and the pain in the first place. So I get out of bed, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I make my bed that morning so I don't crawl back into it. I feel exhausted, overwhelmed. We've all felt this before, whether you felt it during the pandemic or you felt it because you lost a job or somebody just says, "I don't love you anymore," or you hate how you look. We've all felt this. I'm overwhelmed by my life. I'm exhausted. I can't face this. I get into the bathroom. I start brushing my teeth. And I immediately catch a glimpse of myself. And I think, oh my God, you look like hell. And then the habit starts that I really want us to unpack. Because every single human being I'm discovering has a habit that is so destructive and none of us are talking about because it's so subtle and it is so hard baked into your mind. And it's this. Every morning in the bathroom mirror, You either ignore yourself, which is a form of rejection, or you pick yourself apart and see all the things you need to fix or what you don't like. And this isn't, this is everybody. 50% of people are uncomfortable or will not look at themselves in the mirror.
I'll admit, I raised my hand. Took me a very long time to really, truly, and there's still discomfort there of looking at myself. And I used to tell myself, well, it's okay. I know how I feel in my body, and that's my marker. I feel good today, and that's all I need. I don't need to look at that mirror. Not really understanding that I was in that active avoidance. Something felt very intimate, very vulnerable. Before I even got to then the criticism of myself, it just was for me pure avoidance. I didn't really care. I mean, I would need mirrors if I maybe put some makeup on. And outside of that, me and mirrors, I didn't have a relationship with them at all. Not knowing, again, I told myself the story of why I believed I wasn't looking at them until I dove down and unpacked it and understood that there was a discomfort there and still, like I said, remains for me.
Well, same for me. So I start picking myself apart. I feel my energy going down. And, the interesting thing, as I felt myself just getting so defeated, why'd you get up late? You haven't texted Nicole back. The dog's not walked. Like, I'm just like dragging. And all the research around emotional contagion. So do I. That this emotion and negative space is going to impact your productivity. And we know all this, but it's a habit. I've been doing this for 4 decades is how long I've been doing this as part of my morning routine. And so if you had walked in the bathroom that morning, I would have spun on a dime. I would have been like, Nicole, I know this is terrible. I'm so sorry you're going through this. You don't deserve this. But if anybody can face this, you can. What do you need? I would have lifted you up. I could not think of a thing to say. And here's the thing, I wouldn't have even believed it because it didn't match how I was feeling. And I don't know what came over. I honestly believe it was the universe, the divine source saying, all right, we're ready for this. Because it is so cheesy on its face. I'm literally in my underwear, alone with the dog at my feet, literally having the dark night of the soul. And I lift my hand to my tired reflection because the woman in the mirror needed a high five. And in that moment, lightning didn't strike. It wasn't like the heavens opened and, purple light came in and, whoa, that's not what happened. As you know, too, you kind of have this awakening and then it's like, now what? No, but I felt this shift, and I can explain the science. It's crazy. I felt this shift and the energy wasn't lovely. The energy was more like, oh, come on. I laugh. Oh, Mel, come on. It's not, get out there. You're safe, you're fine. I kind of shoved myself. I didn't even think, I didn't say it. It was a shift. We have already covered the science around the way that your brain works. We have already discussed how you have a default network of neurons and neural pathways in your brain that filter the world. They allow what comes in and what comes out. We've talked about limiting beliefs. We've trained you on the power of being a deliberate thinker. We've trained you on how you think this instead of thinking that when you have very negative beliefs. And now we're in the portion of the program where we're talking about the power of your morning routine. Why is a morning routine critical for your mindset? The reason why your morning routine is critical for your mindset is a couple reasons. Number one, let's just think common sense. If you wake up and you feel horrible and you're in a bad mood, and you pick up your phone or you turn on the news and the first inbound information that hits your brain is negative, or it triggers something in you emotionally that is negative, you are starting your day off on the wrong foot. And you might even have a habit that if you wake up and the day begins as a bad day, that you then spend the rest of your day convincing yourself that this entire day is a bad day. That is a major mistake. It's also not true because you get to choose how you view what's happening around you. And the second reason why your morning routine is critical is because the first 2 hours that your brain is awake are the best 2 hours for your brain all day. And so I believe that if you create a very powerful morning routine, and the one that I am recommending that you start off with, and then you make it your own, you add in things, you take away things that you don't use or that you're not going to like. But everything I'm recommending is based on the science around productivity, focus, happiness, the way that your mind is actually wired to work. And that's why I'm recommending everything that I've been recommending in the program. I will explain very briefly the steps of the morning routine, but if this is the first video you're watching, it's day 11. Go back to day 9, go back to day 10, where I really begin talking about the power of a morning routine, why it's important, and I explain the science in detail. For today's training, we're going to talk about the third step in your morning routine. So when you get to the third step, by this point, you have already woken up on time and gotten out of bed when the alarm rang. You didn't hit the snooze button. You've already turned off the alarm on your phone if you're using your phone for your alarm. You have not looked at your phone. You have not turned on the TV. You have not let any information from the outside world cross the threshold into your precious brain yet. Why? Well, the reason why is I believe that you and your dreams, they deserve 10 lousy minutes. In fact, I think they deserve an hour. But I'm just going to go with 10 minutes because I know that you can find 10 lousy minutes to focus on your dreams, to focus on becoming a deliberate thinker, to plan out your day, and to figure out what your priority is. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.